All right. So with that, hello, everyone, and welcome to our April Atlassian community event hosted by the New York group. So for those of you new to the community, welcome, and we're excited to have you on board. So just a few items to cover this evening before we dive into the agenda. So we like to keep the gathering open, friendly, and engaging. And if you want to say something, please feel free to unmute or raise your hand through Zoom. And just be respectful of your fellow members of this community. So with all of our New York ACEs, we've got a full agenda and we've got a lot to cover this evening. So earlier this month, Atlassian was back in Vegas after 3 years for their annual summit, which is called Team. For this year was Team 22. For those who didn't have a chance to catch all the happenings, we're excited to have Andy Gladstone, fellow New York City community leader, to fill us in on all the top announcements and spotlight a few sessions. However, before we jump into all things Team 22, we're super pumped to have Brittany Joyner, also a fellow Atlassian community leader, to show us how non-dev teams can leverage Trello to streamline their project communication and team communication. And of course, for those who aren't part of our online community and interested in learning more and connecting, become a member and receive updates on upcoming New York events and other happenings with the details shown here. And as members of our community, we wanted to keep you informed on any related upcoming events. So next month, Blended is hosting a State of ITSM, and Atlassian has its Developer Day in June. So if these events are of interest to you, please feel free to register at the links shown here. Now, of course, just a little bit of a kudos to share. During Team 22, Dilip, one of our New York City ACE leaders, was awarded the Changemaker of the Year award. And having been onboarded by Dilip this past year and learning from him how to properly prepare and execute an ACE, I couldn't think of anyone more fitting to get this award. So I did blow you up there on the spotlight, Dilip. Round of applause for Dilip for all that he's been doing. I'm super happy to share that.
Thank you.
And also just to add in, like, this is not just for the New York, like this is across the globe. They identify and recognize, reward people from different areas, different cities. And to get this was not easiest. And Dilip has worked his ass off to get that recognition. So thanks, Dilip. And again, we should also get the credit because we make look Dilip so great because we underperform so that he can look so nice. So yeah, but again, nevertheless, congratulations, Dilip, once again.
Thank you, Felix.
And then, of course, before handing it off to Brittany, I just want to take a brief moment to celebrate her on being named this year's Community Leader Choice Award. And what's special about this award is it's chosen amongst fellow Atlassian community leaders. So we're super pumped to award Brittany with that one. Congratulations again, and we're happy for you as well. So we had to share out some good news here. At this point, I'm sure everyone wants to stop hearing my voice there. So I'll stop my share of all the announcements, and I'm happy to hand it over to Brittany for a presentation on Trello in the enterprise.
And once again, before you go, that Brittany, congratulations again. I know you were not present there at the event when we were like, who is this person? Who is this? They were saying she's an energy ball. She's like, she can rock you. And it's like, yeah, let's see. And then guess what? We have her for the first event, which is great. Thanks, Brittany.
Yes. Yeah. Oh, thank you so much. Thank you. Yeah, I was so bummed when I couldn't make it to Teams this year. I was planning on it, and then like I ended up adopting a dog in October, and he has like heartworm, and so we ended up having to get him injections for it. And when he's on those injections, he like is supposed to be like on, they call it strict cage rest, and he doesn't have to literally be in his cage, but like the goal is like you need to make this dog's life as anti-stress as possible for like 2 months. And so we've like hardly left him. We've tried to like minimize any travel. So I was really bummed to miss that, but like super honored. I heard a lot of cool things about the event, so it sounded like it went great. But yes, I plan to be there next year. I already have it saved on my calendar. I guess I just won't adopt any more dogs, so I don't have to worry about anybody getting heartworm next year. It's kind of my plan. We'll see if that works.
Awesome.
All right. Okay, cool. All right, well, everybody, let's get started here. So first of all, thank you for having me here to chat. If you don't know me, I'm a huge Trello nerd. I literally, I'm like voted most likely to get a Trello tattoo. I've been voted like the #1 super fan. They often refer to me as that in the community, and I'm excited to chat with you today about Trello for Enterprise and just in general how like non-development teams can use Trello. And I think it's interesting because a lot of people think of Jira and Kanban type of things as like, oh, those are for, software development teams, which I actually am a software developer now, but I did not spend most of my career doing that. And so I have a lot of experience with using Trello on those non-development teams. So a little bit more about me. I'm based in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. Not a place I ever thought I'd see myself. I moved here a couple of years ago, but yeah, living here right now. And I'm a full-time software engineer at Elastic. But previously spent a lot of my career working in marketing for various startups and even while I was here at Elastic. But like I said, in my free time, I'm a Trello content creator. I consult with people and help them figure out how to get the Trello workflows that they want, or just asking, different questions about stuff. I'm very active in the Trello section of the Atlassian community. I love to help different people solve their problems with Trello, whether it's like a very obscure use case or it's something simple. Even it's really fun to me to be able to help people solve those sort of problems. So I'm going to start a little bit high level just to kind of bring everybody here together in case you're like, I've heard of Trello, but I don't really know what Trello is. I like to describe it as a digital whiteboard with supercharged sticky notes, and that might sound simple, but that's exactly what it is. It's a digital whiteboard that lets you can access this board anywhere. And imagine, like you can kind of see behind me, I've got a physical whiteboard. It's great for being able to organize things and visualize them. So like if you have tasks of sticky notes and you want to be able to see like, well, what's in progress? What do I still need to get done? This is basically a digital version of that. And these items that you organize, they're called cards, and they're typically tasks or context or pieces of little information that you want to keep track of and assign action items to, or yeah, just generally have together. So the lists are what you see listed on here as ways of organizing those cards on your board. So that's kind of the key terminology we're going to use here. Trello is great. It's used by, I meant to double check this quote, but I think they said like 80% of Fortune 500 companies are using Trello. I think they announced that at Team, and that was pretty cool. A lot of different teams use it, dev teams, but non-dev teams as well, marketing teams, sales teams, and we'll talk more about that. But it's a pretty trusted tool. They have a really strong community, both the Atlassian community, even on Reddit, there's a lot of people talking about it. And there's lots of content, a lot of people like me talking about how to make things in Trello, how to improve workflows, how to automate things, different power-ups, which we'll get into more into that in a second. But just to talk more about what makes these supercharged sticky notes. These are your cards are your core element of your board. And with it, can be as simple as a title, like you would write on a sticky note, but you can add even more onto it. So you can assign members, you can add labels, you can add a checklist within it, which is basically like subtasks. You can add dates to keep track of it and view it in a timeline. You can even style your card if you're into that type of thing. And for any fields that you don't see out of the box, you can add with custom fields. You can add custom number, date, checkbox, text, and drop down fields. So you can add just about anything you need to that. And some of the newest things, if you haven't looked at Trello in a while, some of the newest things you can do with cards is attach previews of other Trello cards. So if you want to, maybe you have tasks that are dependent on each other, you can see in this middle screenshot here, a previewed card inside that Trello card. So I can kind of see the status and what's going on with that card without having to actually go to it. I can see the front of it embedded here with what list it's in, any due dates on it, or custom fields, or who's assigned to it, and any labels that are affiliated with it. So that's a new thing. And Trello also recently introduced link cards and board cards. And what those are is if you add a card where the title is or is basically a link to either a Trello board or like a YouTube video or various things. It basically embeds that element in the card. Like you can see this example here is what it actually ends up looking like, which instead of just being a string of text like this, it actually embeds that element. And if you click that, it goes straight to that board. It does the same thing with YouTube videos or the various other sort of things. I want to say it's Loom. They have like a handful of different things in there. So yeah, so it's pretty cool. And if you want to take it to the even next level, then you can use the third-party integrations that are called power-ups. So for those of you who are familiar with Jira, these are like apps for Jira. We just call them power-ups, which I guess sounds a little bit cooler. But basically, they let you integrate with other tools that you use, such as GitHub, MailChimp, or Jira. But they also add additional features to your board that don't necessarily come out of the box. And some of these are free, some of these are paid. Some of them are built by Trello themselves. Some of them are built by other people. There's a whole community of Power Up developers. And there's a lot out there. You can see the different categories on here. There's ones that can help with analytics and reporting, communication, file management, even marketing related ones and sales ones. So if you have a team that wants to start using Trello, I highly recommend go check out that section of Power Ups, and you can see what other sort of cool features you can unlock. So that's just to introduce you to some of the terminology we're going to be using to talk about what is Trello and how does all that work with the enterprise use cases. So I've seen Trello used a lot of different ways in a lot of different companies. I'm gonna be totally honest, I haven't worked with a ton of extremely like enterprise as the technical definition of companies using Trello, but I know a lot of companies. I've worked with a lot of small to medium businesses, especially that are actively using it for all sorts of workflows. And I'm going to show you some of those and what they look like. So the most common one is a Kanban to-do list sort of style. And that's probably what Trello is. It's Trello's bread and butter. A lot of people use that. Development teams will use that. Personal team people use that. Like I use that just to manage my own sort of personal life. So it's definitely not it's definitely not like just an enterprise use case, but it's one that very easily translates itself to any team. It's not a team specific type of use case. And what it is a very simple style of, at its most core format, you have a list that's your backlog of all the things that you need to do. And you have different lists that are either as simple as to do, doing, and done, or it's more specific, like to your team and their processes. So for instance, this is an example of how a marketing team might use one. And maybe they're working on one-pagers and different campaigns, and there's like a creation stage, and then there's a review stage and a publish stage. So you could name your list those sort of things, or you could just keep it simple with to do, doing, and done. And so this is just a great simple use case. It doesn't require anything complicated to set up. It's very easy to imagine and visualize. And it's a great way to keep everyone in your team on the same page. So it's like a really helpful way to just at a glance, like know what everyone's working on. There's no like scrambling around with who's working on what this week or what is our team doing, especially if someone else in the company wants to know, like, what's your team's priorities this week? Well, you don't have to go look at everybody's calendars and emails and try to figure out like what everybody's focused on. You can literally direct them right here and say, this is what we're doing. And I've personally found this format really helpful when, for instance, I'm working in a team where I'm getting a lot of requests and people are like, we need this week. And this gives me a great way to go to my manager and say, hey, I just got this additional request. You see my bandwidth here. What are we getting rid of? Like, am I getting rid of one of these other cards, or is this actually getting put in the backlog? Because they're saying it's urgent, but you see what else is on my plate. Help me choose what I need to focus on here. So that's where this board comes in really handy. And it's also a good way to kind of ease into Trello for your enterprise company. Like if you can't get your whole team on board right away, it's a great way to start out using it just for yourself and getting your workflow. And then maybe, like someone else at work joins your board and maybe your small team starts to use it. And so I actually found some success with using this with my smaller paid media team at Elastic. And even though I never got like my greater demand gen team to implement it, our smaller team found some good workflows with that. So it's a good gateway Trello use case, if you will. Another use case, did I skip ahead? No. Okay, so this is primarily for marketing teams, but which is where I have a lot of experience. But a content planning board is it's a great way to organize. Here's what we've got going out, what we're publishing on our marketing team. So from different pieces of content, whether it's like videos or blog posts or different sort of initiatives like that, even social media posts, you can have it all in one board. You can use labels to organize the type of content that it is, or you can use the list to organize the type of content that it is, and you can move things through your funnel, your publishing funnel of creating or editing or drafting up any designs for, and then publishing and promoting. And it's a great way, especially if you have different freelancers that you work with. So Trello's blog, for instance, there's not any one person that manages Trello's blog. There's lots of people that write for it, myself being one of them. And they actually have a Trello board very similar to this that kind of manages those all the way from somebody pitching an idea for a blog post to someone claiming it, to someone drafting it, to it being revised and edited and eventually published on Trello's blog. So it's a great way to organize it. And like I said, there's probably 20 or 30 different people in that board. And I can't imagine if we were trying to all do that out of like a spreadsheet or a Google Doc, that would get atrocious. And one of the things I love about it is it's a great board for everybody at Trello to be able to see what's going on. But for the most part, I can just go into that board and use a filter to only show cards that are assigned to me. And it's suddenly much less overwhelming and lets me focus on exactly what I need to work on. So that's a great way to have that mile high view while also letting people zoom into their specific views. Another common use case is for sales teams, and people will use Trello to manage their sales pipeline, to track different contacts and how they progress through the sales pipeline from a lead to hopefully a closed and won deal. And one of the power-ups that I recommend to go alongside with this is the Crumble power-up. And I actually started working with this team a couple years ago. Several years ago, I wrote a blog post about how to build a CRM out of Trello. And I basically came up with a process that was like, okay, so you definitely can do this. Here's your boards you'd organize. You can use custom fields and this or that. And like it worked. But what Crumble did was they basically built a power up that out of the box does all those things I described with, making those contact fields with birthday and phone number and email. But they also added in like reporting, which was a big piece that I hadn't figured out in my workflow. So they have reports where you can see how many leads move through your funnel and at what stage, like, are they getting stuck anywhere? You can calculate deal value by different stage, and you can even filter by sources. So if you want to see like how your different marketing channels are performing, it's a good way to, Crumble's a good way to be able to actually measure that within Trello. And one of the things that's really cool about this is it's a CRM that holds all of your contact details, but also lets you put your project management pieces with it. So for instance, you're no longer like sitting there and going through, what do I need to do on my lead? Like you're not having to look them up in Salesforce and then go over to, whatever tool you're using to remember what's the next step with them. It's all right there, and you can get reminders, and you can even automate emails and things like that. So it's a good way to keep everything all in one place. Similar use case is support teams using it for support ticket tracking. So let's say, you're a SaaS company and you've got a product and, customer has a bug or some issue they reach out to support. What you can do is you can actually have those, not always complaints, I guess, those tickets come in directly into this Trello board, and you can manage it with you can assign people to manage it. You can delegate tasks there. You can add due dates to it. You can add labels like, is this a feature? Is this a bug? And yeah, I recommend using the email for Trello Power Up because it's a powerful one that lets you work with a shared inbox. So if you have like a help@yourcompany.com, what you can do is connect that to this Trello board. And anytime a new email comes into that, it'll come right in here and somebody can claim it. You don't have to worry like who's going to actually respond to that. You could use Butler automation to like automatically assign that to somebody for them to grab, or someone can manually grab it. They can respond to the email right from within the Trello card. They don't have to, actually go into the inbox to do that. So it's a great way to, again, keep your contacts and your tasks all in one place and keep it documented over time. Like, it's a pain to kind of see if you're trying to notice customer issues over time and you have to like scroll through email. That's a little hard, but you can use labels and custom fields to organize them in here so that it's a great way to, at the end of the month, report, oh, we had, this many tickets come through, 75% of them related to this new feature that we launched, or, whatever it is. So that's a good use case. And by the way, I keep forgetting to mention this, but I'll share these slides, and there's templates for a lot of these boards, if not all of them in here. Or yeah, I believe they all had, templates all linked to them. So if you want to take this back to your teams, oops, sorry, question? Nope. If you want to take this back to your teams, like, definitely feel free to send them links to the templates, because there's lots of information in there that can help them out and show them exactly a blueprint for how to start using Trello. So now I'm going to spend last couple of minutes just talking through what are like some useful power-ups that are most relevant to enterprise teams. And the main one that I'm going to recommend is backups for Trello, and it's built by Rewind, and it effectively does what it sounds like. It backs up your Trello board, and it's not even just for if there's like, some data disaster. Sometimes it's as simple as, if you get somebody new coming in and using your Trello board, what if they delete a list, or what if they accidentally move your board around and hide cards, or like, even if it's not meant to be malicious, but just an accident, and they move things around. And you're like, how do I get it back? This is exactly the power up you want, because you'll be able to select the board and say, all right, it looked like the way I wanted it to look on June 21st. Let's go back to that. And then just with a click of a button, you're able to restore it. So another nice part about it is, if Trello is down, you can still work off your boards, because you can restore a version of it to be able to see, here's where Trello was before it went down, and you can kind of work off it like that. So if there are down days, you're not, it doesn't impact your team's productivity at all. So yeah, definitely recommend adding that power up. And then another one I recommend for enterprises is Unito. And I included a screenshot here of the integrations, but effectively what this tool does is it mirrors data from or to Trello and other tools. So a good use case of this is, let's say you leave this presentation, you're like, man, I really want to use Trello with my team, but I know I will never ever get my dev team to use it. They want to use GitHub. And I really want to use Trello, but I work with them. So how do I do that? And what you can do is you can use something like Unito and map relationships between those two tools. So you can say, when this happens in GitHub, I want you to find the related card in my Trello board and add that comment, or add that label, or whatever, mimic whatever action happened in the one tool. And it's really helpful. Jira's on there too. So if you have like, some other colleagues who are really heavy into Jira and you want to give Trello a try, this is a great way to do it. Obviously, Trello and Jira integrations are pretty tight because they have the same parent. But yeah, full disclosure, I haven't played with a ton of those because I'm a bit new to Jira myself. So, but I know that with tools like Unito, especially, you're able to kind of mirror that data however you would like. So it's really useful for that. On a smaller scale, even if you just want to do it within Trello, Unito is great for mirroring that info back and forth, where you can update Trello cards and it's impacted in multiple boards. So let's say you maybe have like one company-wide board with everything going on, and then one of your employees maybe has their own sort of board with like, here's very specifically what I'm working on. Well, you could have it where when they make a change in their board, it's reflected on this other larger board for your team or your organization or whoever. So really useful power up. And I will say there's other ways you can sort of mirror data with Butler automation or Zapier, but Unito is pretty great because it does a lot of that mapping out of the box for you, and it just kind of works. Whereas with the other tools, there's a lot of logic you've got to think through, and yeah, you've got to really think through that whole workflow. And lastly, I'm going to talk a little bit about the pricing and the enterprise features here. So this is probably one of the biggest questions that come up is like, what kind of Trello plan do I need? And Here's kind of, I tried to highlight the views here for you to make it as clear as possible about like what are the main differences between the plans. And effectively, the free plan, it's okay. I know a lot of people who use it for different things, and it's fantastic for kind of making a proof of concept. Like if you want to actually show your team some stuff before you go out and buy a Trello plan, you can show all sorts of stuff and get some really good use out of just the free plan. But you're going to want to move up to the standard plan, at least if you're interested in custom fields, which are those fields that I mentioned at the beginning that are anything other than your start and due date fields, your assigned member fields, or things like that. If you want to add additional sort of fields to track like other dates, or if you want to be able to track numbers or things like that, you're going to want to use custom fields. Or if you want advanced checklists, which those are basically subtasks within a card. And the advanced version of those lets you assign members and due dates to those tasks. To be honest, it's not a feature I use a ton. I prefer, if I'm going to break out a big old checklist, I'd probably just rather have each item be its own card, but that's a little bit of a style preference. And that's worth noting that that's the standard plan. Things start to get a little more interesting with premium. And this is actually the plan that I spend a lot of time in because I really like the different views you can have. So you see them listed here. And basically what that lets you do is view all of those cards in your board in different formats. So the dashboard view, it actually shows you charts of how many cards you have by different label or by list or by member. So it's a great way to see like, oh man, we've got, 40 cards assigned to Brittany and 2 assigned to Andrew. Like let's distribute some work here a little differently, or however you want to organize that. Or that could be very useful for, like I was describing, like how many cards or how many issues on our support team relate to what type of label. Like 75% of these issues relate to this new feature that we launched. And the calendar views, those are super helpful as well for anytime you're working with dates and you want to be able to visualize like how all these cards fall in a date view. You're going to want to use the calendar and timeline views. So that's really the big piece that comes with premium. And you get access to more automation commands. So the unlimited workspace runs that relates to butlers. So if you're pretty heavy in the automation like I am, you're going to need some of that. And then lastly, the one worth noticing is there's some admin and security features that basically allow you to access, you can allow access to your Trello workspace by domain. You can bulk deactivate users if you need to. You can set a specific role of observer, which lets people look at your boards and be part of it, but not able to like actually edit or comment on them. And so that's kind of a big piece of that. And then lastly, if you want to move into enterprise, the big pieces of that, it's worth noting that the pricing is per user in the company, not per workspace. So the way these other plans work is you pay per, let's say $5 a month per user that's on this workspace or this team. And you can have as many boards as you want in that team. You can have as many people as you want in that team. You're charged by each user there. That's how that works. But with enterprise, it's just more of, you're basically paying for 200 users and they can have as many workspaces as they want, or, whatever they want to do with that. So you can also have the option to create templates for your organization that are templates anyone can use, but only if they're part of your enterprise, part of your organization, not public templates that just anybody can access. And you can have more multi-board guests. Otherwise, you're charged for those in the other plans. And you also have some power of administration, so you can bulk enable and bulk disable power-ups. To be honest, I don't know if they fully released that yet, because I know that is a very new thing they've been talking about. And I think they're like slowly rolling that out. But that would be the intent, is if you're like, yeah, I want all of my teams using that, I want all of them backed up. I want all of my teams using Rewind backup for Trello. You can bulk allow that for every single board. And then lastly, the SSO with the single sign-on, so that you can, assign it to your employees and not have to individually invite each one. So that's Trello for Enterprise. I'm here if you have any questions. If you're like, Brittany, you talked way too fast through this one specific section, calm it down a little bit, tone down that enthusiasm. I'm happy to elaborate on anything.
Brittany, I have a quick question regarding security. So one of the things I find very often is I find tons of public Trello boards, and I don't know if people intend for that to be that way or not. Is there some best practice to avoid if you're utilizing Trello to make sure you avoid your board becoming publicly accessible and then be searchable via Google?
Absolutely, absolutely. So it's funny because I think that's both a blessing and a curse of Trello, like you said. If you want it to be found, Trello actually shows up pretty well in SEO. So a lot of times you'll Google for something about Trello and you're expecting a blog post, but you actually find a Trello board. So the best advice I have is, like, a lot of people worry about that, but it's not something you can easily do, if that makes sense. So I'll actually show you a quick demo real quick, because I know a lot of people bring this up, but let's say you want to create a Trello board, it's not like it's public out of the box. You'll go to create board, and by default, it's set to your workspace, which is that sort of team group dynamic that I mentioned at the start. And if you want to make it public, you'll have to click public. You'll have to actually double opt into that, because it'll pop up this thing saying public boards are visible to anyone on the internet and show up on search engines. So you have to say, yes, make board public, and then you can call it something. But there's no way, like, you'd have to, it's not something that happens on accident. You basically have to intentionally click public and then confirm that you're sure with that. Otherwise, it's going to be at best visible to everybody in your workspace, which would be, only people you've invited to your team, or it's going to be private and you'll have to individually invite people to it. So that's my number one thing, is like, I think a lot of people worry about it, but it's actually not as easy as it looks to make a board public, and it doesn't default to that. So you kind of have to go out of your way to make it public. I only make it, I have a lot of boards that are public just because I like to share them with people, and like, I'm often making templates or demoing different things, and so that's when I make boards public. But honestly, for the most part, I generally leave them as private and invite other people as need be to them. It's also kind of helpful just to kind of make sure, like, even with workspaces, like, generally, like, in this personal workspace that I have, it's just me. So having a board as private and workspace is effectively the exact same thing. But if you're working, like at Elastic, I would default to making a board private and then upgrading it to, workspace. It was like, okay, actually, I do want other people on my team to be able to see it. So I like to start it private, and then you can easily change these at any point. So let's say you accidentally do end up making it public. Once again, see, I've got a double opt in here. It's super easy to be like, oh crap, let me change it to private. One step quick change. And you can always see the status of it right here at the top level of the board. It's not something you've got to go digging into settings to find. So yeah, so that's kind of my advice, is to start small and then open it up wider as you need to. And don't panic too much about, oh no, what if, like, it's accidentally public? Yeah, you'll usually catch it by that point.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And I actually have a question too, Brittany. So if the board is made public by accident, is it possible then for someone to go in there and then make it private again, like from an admin side?
Yep, absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. So yeah, so let's say I go make this board public right now. I can go in here and make it private immediately. So like, as the admin, that's actually a good question. If, like, I assume that with this work, what's the setting here? Organization-wide management, is that what it is? Public board management? Public board management. I assume that option in enterprise very specifically, like, gives there's like an administration center of Trello. Oh, I haven't actually, like I said, used the enterprise plan, but I assume there's a place where, like, even if I'm a Trello admin and I'm not the admin of that specific board, I can still quickly go make it private if that admin accidentally makes it public. But as far as, like, the person who owns it, you can immediately change it from public to private. Like, I've made it public accidentally real quick, and hit private, and you can easily go back to that.
That's fantastic. Awesome. Thank you, Brittany. Yeah, we're just tossing out some curveballs, seeing we're really testing your Trello knowledge.
No,
So,
I love it. It's great. It's great. And like, I need to ask Trello to get me like, give me like a year of Trello Enterprise or something, because it's just something like I haven't used. And so some of these questions are like a little theoretical to me in some ways of like, I just haven't come across that use case of needing to do that. But I imagine that is what they mean by that feature there. So yeah, I'll have to play around with it more, and maybe next year we'll do another talk, and I'll say, all right, here's everything new that I've learned in the last year from Trello Enterprise.
But I thought
there's
we
anyone
as
here on the-
leaders,
Oh,
Sorry.
I was saying that we as community leaders get the enterprise license.
I think it's just business. Well, so they've
Yeah.
changed it recently. I think it's just business class, so this is another grief of mine. Like Trello, I feel like changes their pricing plans like so frequently. I hope they stick with this one. But what as leaders, I think we got business class, which was previously the version of kind of like this premium level pricing. And now that they've changed it, I don't know what it equates to, but also they only do that for a year. And so I already used up like my year of business class / premium. But yeah, other leaders, if you haven't used it yet, I think it dumps you in this tier. I'm pretty sure.
Got it. Okay, cool.
well, if there is anyone here on the from the Trello side that could get Brittany that enterprise, that would be amazing.
I think
Yeah,
Javier said that he's got her covered.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
perfect.
Brittany, I got you.
Okay. Yes, sweet. Oh man, I'm gonna unlock everything. I'm gonna be like, whew, might take over the world now.
That's really great. I had one question for you, Brittany.
Yeah.
I know you talked about the Kanban board. Is there also a concept of Scrum boards, time
Yeah.
box to this?
Yeah. So there's definitely like that's Trello's bread and butter is the sort of like Scrum, Agile, Kanban sort of thing. So you can see if you head over to Trello.com/templates, they have all sorts of different boards that you can explore all the different like use cases you're imagining here. So you can search Kanban, you can search Scrum,
Oh.
like there's very specific examples in here, and you can actually like use this template and view template,
Got it.
and you can see it and then copy it straight from yours and be able to use it. And a lot of these templates come with like how to use this. And funnily enough, I'm actually in the process of writing a blog. I have a blog post that I've already written for Trello that I'm in the process of updating about using Trello for Scrum. So yeah, I'm happy to include a link to that.
Awesome. That's great. Thank you.
Yeah.
Cool.
Awesome.
Any other questions or anything? Oh, here, let me go back. I think it was right there. Yeah, I'll post this link in the chat here.
That's great. Thank you.
Thank you, Brittany.
Cool. Sweet, yeah. And if there's no other questions, then yeah, there's a couple other ways you can reach me if you're interested. I don't mind giving out my personal email address, so it's right here. And I'll share a link to these slides so you can copy and paste it too if you want. But I'm on Twitter, pretty active there. I have a newsletter all about Trello where I write literally once a week about different Trello content I find online or things I do in Trello. So I have a YouTube channel I'm working on. It's kind of new, so trying to build some more content there. I just released a video today about 7 mistakes you want to avoid when you start using Trello. So basically 7 things that I see. Oops, I just realized I sent that to Javier. Oops, let me post that link to everybody in the meeting. Yeah, so feel free to come check me out over there, and happy to show you all sorts of Trello goodness.
Awesome.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Brittany.
Yeah. I'm going to go off script here. I'm going to, in the spirit of asking forgiveness instead of permission, I'll also mention that. So Brittany and I are connected via the community, and she's also available for any of the community leaders on the Slack channel. And I got into Trello personally because I had discovered Brittany, and she has a fantastic training course that I'll post a link to if anybody's interested in learning more about Trello. Really great for beginners and people that want to get started in Trello. Because of that, I actually utilize the email power up for all of the articles in the community that I don't want to leave 1,000 tabs open on my screen. And so I'll just use the share button, which is new to the community as well. And I'll share it to my Trello board, and it automatically goes, it's a power-up that goes into a list for everything I need to read. And then once it's read it, I have an automation that moves it over to, already read in column. So I've learned a lot myself, Brittany. Thank you so much. And it's really helped me in organizing my own personal and professional life. So.
Oh my gosh, that seriously means so much to me. Like, that makes me so happy to hear. I love that so much. And yeah, that makes me really happy. I'll keep doing it. Keep putting out some more content.
That's fantastic. And that's what the community is about. We all get to connect, you get to share the stories and be able to lean on each other. So that's amazing. And thank you, Andy, for putting that module in there. I'll have to take a look at it here after tonight's event. All right.
Great story.
Thank you so much, Brittany. That was absolutely wonderful. And hopefully we'll get you to come back here soon enough to maybe talk on one of your articles that you publish here.
Yeah, let's do it.
That's awesome.
I also want to try to lurk some more of yours too. Even if I'm not presenting, going to try to come join here and be a regular face if I can.
That would be awesome.
You're always welcome, and we'll send out those details as we get more events and things.
Yeah. Awesome. Sounds good.
Great. So just to switch gears here, next on the docket is Andy Gladstone to give us a little bit of a Team 22 recap, some of the events and breakout sessions that took place. So with that, Andy, you want to take it away?
Sure. Let me share my screen. Let me know if everybody can see the actual slides on the screen as opposed to seeing my outlines. So
we see it.
Good. Perfect. All right. So first of all, thank you everybody for coming. Brittany, as I said earlier, thank you very much for an amazing presentation. It's going to be hard to follow an international sensation like Brittany, but I'll try. If anybody logged in late, it was mentioned earlier that Brittany was awarded the Leaders' Choice Award at this year's Team 22 Community Leaders Dinner. And it's an award that's selected by the community leaders and is based on their community spirit, characteristics, and engagement with other leaders. So if you didn't know before, after that presentation, you do know why she was this year's winner. So congratulations to Brittany and Dilip as well for winning an award as part of the chapter leadership of the year. I wanted to say thank you to the New York City chapter leadership for asking me to run the Team 22 recap. This is my first time presenting as a community leader to the rest of the community. I hope it's not the last time that I'll be asked to present, but I guess we'll know at the end whether or not their decision is correct or not. And before I begin, I do need to give credit to some fellow community leaders for the work they have already put into their recaps, which has helped me construct ours. Erica Larson from Boise, Idaho, and Jimmy Seddon from Guelph, Ontario. Thank you both for the work that you put in while I attended the keynotes myself in person and some sessions and took voracious notes as Andrew and Dilip discovered my favorite friend is my pen. Reading the recaps really helped me formulate my thoughts for this presentation. So I am Andy Gladstone. I'm Chief Operating Officer at Fidelity Payment Services. I'm based out of the Brooklyn Navy Yard in Brooklyn, New York. I live in Far Rockaway, so I'm local to the New York City chapter and been involved in the chapter for the last 2 years, off and on a little bit, but much more in the last 6 months than I had ever been before. And it's been an amazing experience. Let's move forward. So let's start with a quick overview of the agenda before jumping into the content. I intend to speak about some of the overarching themes that permeated Team 22, focus on some of the most compelling announcements that came out of the keynotes, speak about some of the interesting nuggets that came out of the breakout sessions that I attended, and a spoiler alert, I am a Confluence fanboy just like Dilip, so excuse my enthusiasm when I get there. And if we have time at the end to speak a little bit about the Atlassian outage that coincided with Team 22 and Atlassian's response. So let's dive in. So my assessment of the keynotes, there were 3 major themes that could be expressed in 5 lines. One of the underlying themes here that is applicable to all of the above is that we finally had a chance to get together in person, face-to-face or face-to-mask, to meet one another, share in the wins and losses of the previous 2 years since the last summit, which is now Team. And for many, have a return to the normal that we were accustomed to before. I don't know if we maybe get a show of emojis or raised hands in the crowd if anybody attended in person. I do see a lot of names here, people that I got a chance to meet, John Patton, Susan Houth, some others that I know were there, obviously the New York City leadership as well. Brittany, we know, was not able to be there. But, you know, if you're able to attend in person, or did you participate in a digital experience? Or maybe you've taken the hybrid approach that I have and attended in person, but reviewed the digital materials afterwards. Whether you fall into one or two or none of those buckets, it's great to be able to continue the conversation here. So let's dig in. So Team 22 themes. The first theme that was repeated throughout the keynotes is work differently together. Scott opened the sessions with Peter Drucker's quote, "Culture eats strategy for breakfast." He highlighted Atlassian's pivot from office-based work to a distributed workforce, requiring them to rethink the way that we work and create Team Anywhere, an initiative to hire the right people anywhere that Atlassian is licensed to do business, which I know for myself personally, our company, until COVID hit, we were very, very focused on just hiring local talent, paying for real estate here in New York City. We want to put butts in seats here. And we didn't necessarily look for the best candidates anywhere. We just looked for the best candidates in our geography. One of the things that we pivoted to was hiring outside of our comfort zone, starting to incorporate in other states so we can have employees there. I'm interested to know if anybody else went through that with their companies, or maybe somebody who was site-based before picked up and left the area that they were in during the coronavirus to be able to put down their roots anywhere. Anybody do that? All right.
Yep, we started hiring more foreignly. So someone who had left our company to move out west, who was a really great employee, all of a sudden we decided, well, nothing to stop us from hiring him now. So we rehired him back.
It's a great success story for both the organization and the individual, right? So
Absolutely.
yeah. So one of the things that Atlassian, that Scott pointed out, and that I know that our organization has experienced, is that the pivot to distributed workforce, both for the people that work previously in on-prem and the new people, is that it brought about challenges in how to preserve the innovation autonomy needed to allow teams and individuals to contribute at a high level and in an aligned manner. And in Scott's words, there's a quote, "Humankind everywhere is grappling with change. Culture becomes a single differentiator in how companies will succeed, or how spectacularly they will fail." Many companies, he said, snuff the joy out of work. Companies need to find the right balance between autonomy and alignment. Teams need a shared understanding of the what, why, who, and how of their work. This is hard for most organizations, he said. If you're scaling fast, if you're digitally transforming, this can be especially frustrating. So work differently together, autonomy and alignment, two concepts that really speak to all of us, but came out of the changes that happened in the world over the last 24 months. Additional themes that we saw that are supported the first two themes are a data set related to the application sprawl and how Atlassian is addressing it. Atlassian contracted with Forrester on a study of SaaS applications to enterprises, and the numbers 25, 89, and 187 emerged. How many SaaS apps do you think your organization has, is my question now. I know that personally, just as the chief operating officer in our company, I'm the approver of at least a dozen SaaS app invoices every month, including Atlassian tools, Slack, Lucidchart, Trello, which still is a subscription service built separately from Atlassian. When are we going to get that all under one roof in terms of management? A question that I asked at Team 22 and didn't get an answer for. And I know that there are multiple, those are just some of them. And there are multiple approvers throughout my organization that, based on who owns the application, that I see coming through in our general approval channel that are responsible for approving. So we're a 165 person organization. We don't hit 89, but we certainly are over 50 ourselves. Does anybody else experience that themselves? I see a couple heads nodding. So yeah, Andrew's definitely got that problem.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's ever growing, and I don't think it's going to stop. We're pretty close to the 89 count.
So what I call subtraction by addition is what Atlassian I feel focused on with their keynotes, is introduction of two new core products that will overall increase the SaaS app count, but decrease the individual management of the apps that we do have by bringing them all under a single roof. So let's talk about those. So, excuse me for a second. Yeah, I'm sorry. That was a poor transition there. So coming out of the themes of working differently to get together and autonomy and alignment is Atlassian's newest product, Atlas. Atlas is a rebrand and beta launch of the former Team Central, so that many people will be familiar with it already, and it's a graduate of the Point A program. Atlas is a centralized directory for the organization, providing insight into projects and teams that are working cross-functionally on them, bringing people, projects, goals, and communications into a single pane of glass. It answers the key questions for distributed workforces. What's being worked on? Why is it being worked on? Who's on the team that's working on it? And finally, how is the work getting done? Atlas is the where to the who, what, why, and how questions. And since goals and reporting are built in, it also answers the when. In fact, Atlas is designed with fuzzy dates, quote unquote. That's I don't know if that's an actual term, but it was something that Joff mentioned in the keynote, to allow flexibility as projects progress along their timeline. Just as a GPS makes micro adjustments to an ETA based on driver behavior, roadblocks, and obstacles and shortcuts that become available, Atlas will allow projects to hone in on their ETA to completion based on the milestones reached as project completion dates close in. We all plan annually, quarterly, weekly. Development teams use sprints and points to manage their work, but until the work starts getting done, the ETA is at best a guesstimate. Atlas allows that ETA to become a more accurate estimate of work as work progresses, taking more of the guesswork out of managing projects, deliverables, and timetables. As it says at the bottom, all of the signal, none of the noise, right? So when Joff Redfern, the Chief Product Officer, introduced Atlas in his portion of the keynote, he mentioned seeing a sign in the airport, one app to rule them all, and said that while this is a myth, better apps can decrease the total footprint of apps in an organization, and that is what Atlas is designed to do. As a side point, and the reason I smile as I say this is the ad that Joff mentioned is actually from an Atlassian competitor, ClickUp. He saw it in the Las Vegas airport, international airport, when he landed and came in. And he mentioned in his keynote, and within 24 hours, ClickUp had a mock mashup video of Joff speaking and mentioning their tagline with images of their ads in public spaces, airports, and on trains, posted to their social media channels. I actually right now can't find it anywhere else except for one post on LinkedIn, but it's still up there. It's pretty hysterical. And I'm positive not what Joff intended when he quoted the ad. But if you, I'll plug it in the notes when I finish speaking so you could take a look for yourself. They did a very good job mocking it. So what does Atlas provide the organization? We spoke from a high level. What does it actually do? So each project in the organization has a dedicated homepage. Within that homepage, there are status updates that are Twitter style, 200 character limit updates intended to give someone a quick overview of what's going on in a project. I say Twitter style for at least now, because we'll see what Elon Musk does as he takes ownership of Twitter and maybe changes that to less than 200 characters or much more. Depends on what he has to say each day, I guess. Updates can include images, video, and emojis. It utilizes the standard editor that is standardized now across most Atlassian products. Within Atlas, teams can be formed and tracked based on projects they're working on. Team members can be associated with multiple projects and tracked against the individual project as well as personal productivity metrics, which is a very powerful thing. Until now, that was a very static. The person was part of a team, whether you were part of Confluence, Jira, very, very static, and you separated the individuals from teams. Teams were comprised of individuals, but you weren't able to see the productivity reports and capacity reports of each individual within a team and how they're affecting the different teams they are on. Within Atlas, that'll be visible. Teams themselves have profiles just like individuals, so goals and expectations can be mapped to teams as well as individuals. And Atlas also introduces the concept of topics. Topics is a feature that pulls projects and goals together for a high level of visibility throughout the organization. So anyone in the organization can go into Atlas and take a look at the products that affect them most and be able to drill down them from the topics rather than first having to get into the details to find any information. They'll have a topical view of what's going on in the organization and can drill down deeper. Finally, Atlas is free for all Atlassian orgs and can be installed from the page accessible through the QR code link that I posted on the page. And as quoted multiple times throughout Team 22, I love status meetings, said no one ever, and Atlas is intended to remove more and more of those off of our calendars, freeing up our time to do the work that actually has to appear in Atlas rather than just sitting in update and status meetings. The second new product that is now coming out from these themes is Compass. Compass puts control of the sprawl and architecture back in the hands of the admins, providing insight, metadata, and reporting to software teams on their platforms and software development tools. It provides rich, real-time activity updates from components and their dependencies with data pulled in from all the tools in your software development toolchain, not just Atlassian products and services. It answers the key questions about components and services that software teams build and maintain. So we spoke about the questions that Atlas answers, the who, how, why, and what. Here it's what do we own? Where is it being hosted? Who is using it? Why do we need it? And how is it being used? Being able to see the full architecture and infrastructure of the organization in one single pane of glass. It's fully extensible with Forge. Compass is a foundation for end-to-end management and all endpoints of the development workbench. I'm not going to really speak about Forge later. If you're not familiar with Forge, it is the development platform that's being used going forward for any Atlassian add-ons. And I believe that in the keynote from Anu, she mentioned that there are over 800 apps already on the marketplace, or 800 apps that have been developed utilizing Forge, and the majority of those are available on the marketplace as well. The ones on the marketplace, which I'm not going to speak about either, I believe the number was 5,600 apps currently available on the marketplace that resulted in $2 billion of revenue in the last 2 years, with 28,000 installs per week. And I'm not saying that from by heart. I have it written down on paper in front of me, so don't think that I'm some sort of savant in remembering all that information. But pretty amazing when you think about the fact that there is a platform to develop on, to add extensions to these products already, how much more powerful it will be as it's developed further. Compass, which is currently in alpha as it's still part of the Point A framework. It's designed as a platform to articulate software architecture, like I said, defining ownership of the macro and micro system architecture and services that are going on in your organization. What I compare it to is anybody it's like AutoCAD for your software environment, right? If you've ever used AutoCAD and you've seen how can I architect a building? How can I architect any sort of piece of software that needs to be mapped out? That's what its intention is, to be able to give you both a visual and logical representation of your architecture. It links together all Atlassian project management products into a single pane of glass. Like I said, with people, metadata, and scorecards. Atlas will communicate what is happening. Compass will guide you to who owns it. So they are definitely complementary products. And it makes sense that they've both been spoken about sort of ad nauseum at the keynotes during Team 22. So new to the family, Atlassian Analytics and Data Lake. This one really requires a deep dive. There wasn't a lot of time spent on this really across the keynotes, probably maybe 10 minutes total across all the keynotes. But this is something that's going to be a big game changer as time goes on and they develop this further. I'm hoping that Atlassian didn't get ahead of themselves by announcing it, and that we wind up with running to get there fast and then walking. So it really requires a deep dive. I'm not wearing my scuba gear today, so a brief intro and call to action to scan the QR code and read the Atlassian Work Life blog post that really covers this new product and service better than I can, is what you should do. So bookmark that for later, scan it, send it to your Trello board so you have to read it, and take some time to go through it, because that's really currently the best place to get some insight into how analytics and data lake are going to work. In essence, this is something that's been desperately needed for a long time. Centralized database that is queryable across all Atlassian products. The shift from site-based to remote work accelerated development of the idea and product, as team health suffered without the insights that used to exist when teams were working under a single roof. Analytics will query the unified data lake and provide insights through out-of-the-box interactive dashboards, SQL visualization, customizable dashboards and charts fed by the data lake, no-code visualization, fast report builds and GUI point-and-click editors, which we did demo on stage at Team 22. Current data lake residents are Jira Software and Jira Service Management, with other products coming soon. They didn't specify the order of the products that are going to be in there. There may be something out in the community that I have not found yet that does speak about that timeline, but from my understanding, that's not published or publicly available yet. Coming soon to analytics and data lake are support of standard BI tools such as Tableau and Microsoft Power BI. So being able to utilize those tools against the data lake would be great to pull data into reporting tools that are already being used, as well as data streams from external tools into the data lake. So the data lake will not just be a reservoir for all the data from within Atlassian, but to be able to pull in external data. So revenue-based data, data that you would want to map and chart against, right? I'm a huge Strava user, right? So in Strava, you get all this data coming in from all of your activities. You can see your heart rate mapped against the elevation, mapped against the time. As someone running an organization, as any of us want to know, what's our ROI on a product that we're utilizing? Being able to see a specific Jira epic against the mapped ROI on that would be fantastic use of this. And looking forward to seeing how that actually comes out. And it's built on the technology from Atlassian's acquisition of Charting. So they, I believe, announced that back in February. It's been on, sort of went under the hood, got some upgrades, and now it's been pulled back out. And that's what the engine behind analytics will be. So Jira, the Jira journey, or joiner's journey, as we know in Brittany's newsletters. So Jira journey, I happen to love this guide to Jira by Jexo. I don't know where I first saw it. I think it was a post in the last couple of weeks. I screenshot it, I stored it on my desktop. I've shared it so many times since. Atlassian has admitted that they need to do a better job of differentiating the Jira products to users into the marketplace. Jira software, Jira work management. I have Jira software. And then someone says, well, you know, you could do X, Y, Z. No, I can't do that in my Jira. Oh, you don't have Jira work management, but I have Jira software. Shouldn't that just be everything, right? So this is just a great visual. And if anybody wants a copy of it, I'll either try and find where it came from. I believe it was either a LinkedIn post or a community post. I could share that, or I could just share you the file if you reach out to me. Summing up some of the mentions that Jira received in the keynotes, I'd like to focus on a few of the bullet points above. So anything that's highlighted here, I'm going to talk about. So Jira software toolchain. This feature will provide visibility into the tools deployed on any project and identify gaps present that may affect the success of the project. This will support DevOps in easily identifying areas for improvement before release, and will take much of the guesswork out of their roles. So that's a big deal to be able to see what tools are being utilized in this release, how are we using them, and are there any gaps? Is there a gap? We don't have a messaging tool here, or we don't have a release notes tool that's part of this. Being able to look and make sure that each release cycle, there's a holistic view of what's going on. So DevOps and even SecOps can understand what's going into the product so it could release properly. Jira Work Management. So, hey, it's free if you have a Jira software license. Why aren't you using it? It's built on the same Jira platform with the Atlassian shared editor experience. It can change the way that non-technical teams work, and is worth an install to start seeing how your teams can benefit from it. If you have premium and if you have sandboxes, install it in a sandbox and take a look at it. It can completely change the way an organization works. And going back to what I said earlier with Atlassian doing a poor job of defining these different softwares, I know in my organization, we're a product-based organization. We've got 45 to 50 developers on staff, full FTEs. And anytime anybody hears Jira, they just think, oh yeah, that's for them, right? And sometimes people from the operations teams have to get involved because they're tagged in Jira tickets, and they have to go, and they don't understand it. But the fact is that Jira Work Management is a completely different animal, and it can help teams that are operational, financial, marketing, anybody outside of software development to be able to manage their processes. So definitely worth taking a look at. If you don't own that in your organization, you could certainly become someone that is a hero and a champion for bringing it in if you already own the licenses anyway. I'd also be remiss if I didn't plug fellow Atlassian community leader John Funk's recently published book on Jira Work Management, aptly titled Jira Work Management for Business Teams: Accelerate Digital Transformation and Modernize Your Organization with Jira Work Management. It is a mouthful, so we'll just call it Jira Work Management for Business Teams. It's a great resource for anyone that has even beginner knowledge of the Jira platform to get started in Jira Work Management. And as long as Jira Work Management is free, the investment on the book will be your cheapest and most thorough training. In Jira Service Management, the risk assessment engine and change management rules and alerts allow admins, DevOps, and SecOps to deploy with confidence. The risk assessment engine allows them to determine whether a change is low risk and it can be auto-approved and deployed, or high risk and requires further approvals. Assess the dependencies and the potential impact of a change with insight and service registry. The change management rules and calendar, which I think is fantastic, will look at other work ongoing at the same time that a release is scheduled to see if any instance of services may interfere with the release, and provide visibility to a team about their release cycles, allowing everyone to work better together. I know in my organization, that's often one of the biggest issues, is that a release happens while someone else is working on a dependent service and they're not aware that a release is happening and they have to roll back the code. And we are doing releases on Monday and hot fixes on Tuesday. Every time we finish the sprint release, we never release on a Friday. No one wants to go into the weekend dealing with or release on Monday. Hot fixes are announced on Tuesday. Why? This should give people more insight to what's going on, so everyone can plan together. And I see Michael just laughing. Either he's on another call or he totally identifies with this. And then in terms of just training, I mentioned John's book. You can find it on Amazon. Of course, there are also other courses available on Atlassian University. They're great resources as well for all the Jira products that you should check out. University.atlassian.com for the latest courses. Since Team 21, there's been a concerted effort made to update almost all of the content on University. And if you have not visited recently, I recommend you schedule some time to dive in because the courses are fantastic. Maybe they'll even buy out Brittany's course and throw it on there as well for Trello. Okay, I need to say this. I love Confluence. I'm a fanboy. I've been on server and cloud. It's changed my life. And I'm also a Star Wars nerd. And the QR code is down below is one of my expressions of the intersection of these two loves in my life that I posted on the community back in December. But this is my relationship with Confluence. It knows that I love it. It's just the way it is. So let's talk about the Confluence, the influence of Confluence. And Dilip was mentioning earlier, before everyone else got on, that this is my first in-person team. I attended Team 21, as everyone else did, virtually. Summit back in 20 was totally off my radar. But Dilip mentioned that there was definitely a lot more love given to Confluence this team than in previous, and you can see it here. So let's just talk about what's new to Confluence. Charts from table data. Being able to create tables in Confluence, whether you're creating them yourself, you're cutting and pasting a Excel chart, table data in there, and being able to produce charts from that will enhance the experience that our users have. So often, scorecards, trackers that are put in Confluence, it just becomes this big, bulge of data that's going on. To be able to visualize that in Confluence is going to be, and not have to then go to Excel, build it in Excel, cut and paste that back into Confluence, that's going to be a game changer. Automation for Confluence is coming. It's actually in EAP right now. My organization just got it turned on yesterday, so I can't even speak from any experience yet. I am looking forward to utilizing it. Simple low-code, no-code automation in Confluence for creating templates, for having actions that are resulting from an if-then type of statements, again, is going to increase the power of Confluence in the organization. Recently launched the new home experience. I believe that it's still rolling out to organizations on cloud, which really is supposed to become more of a centralized hub for all the activity that's going on, sort of like Atlas is supposed to be. And similar ideas that are, if you look at Atlas and you look at the new Confluence homepage, you can see where the design aspects came for that, but makes it easier to see what's going on, what's popular, what's happening across Confluence in your organization, or at least the spaces that you have access to. Personal Spaces for All, which launched a huge backlash in the community from the admins that did not want to deal with this, but I had spoken to the product team on the floor at Team to discuss it, and they are working towards, and to quote the actual initiative name, give me a moment, it is called Fearless Creation. Is something that the Confluence team is working on, and part of that is making sure that there's personal spaces for all, so everyone can not be afraid to begin a draft that someone else is going to see and they won't become a contributor. So yes, there's a lot of backlash. You can read through the community notes and see what people have had to say about it. Mostly admins that don't want to have to deal with seeing all these personal spaces pop up, but certainly, hopefully something that anything that gets more people involved is a win for me. Embedded video player, now instead of just embedding links to YouTube, we'll be able to see the videos in Confluence, not have to context switch by clicking out of Confluence, going to another website, opening another tab in your browser. It's a big one. Thank you, Michael, for the clapping. Presenter mode, which right now I'm presenting on PowerPoint. I will love the day when one of these ACE chapter events happens and someone is just opening up a Confluence page, hitting presenter mode, and going through it. That will be amazing. And I think it'll be a game changer as well, because so often people prepare what they're going to do in Confluence, but then can't present it in Confluence, have to move it to some third party, Google Docs or to PowerPoint as I'm using today. Emojis and reactions on pages. So the way that the world is going, we've got to show our love and support. Take away the dislike button, but give us hugs and kisses and hearts. Direct integration in Microsoft Teams is already live, where you could create, edit, view pages from Microsoft Teams without having to move to Confluence if you're in the middle of presenting. And they're looking at additional integrations there as well. Improvements, so 53% improvement in page loads on cloud. Most of this is cloud. That's being accomplished through server-side rendering, being used in cloud to speed up page loads that are measured by FMP, which is first meaningful paint. So that's basically at what point do you see the first meaningful portion of the page available to you? They've started to reorganize, retool the tools that are loading before text. So previously they were loading like the toolbar and everything before text. Most people are going in to either see the text or edit. They don't need to load every other tool first. So they've redistributed how that's happening. And they're also retooling the size of the current code within Confluence to try and speed it up. Some factoids that were mentioned throughout the sessions: 10 to 12 times engagement when pages have humanity, which is emojis and images. So people like to engage more. If you're creating pages and you're using an emoji in the page title, you're probably going to get more people looking at it. A 40% increase in page creation since 2020, and that makes sense as everyone went remote, and a lot of people are managing through onboarding through Confluence. I believe Erica Troutman mentioned that she was onboarded. She's on Jobs' team. She's based in Colorado, some remote area in Colorado. Jobs in some remote area in California. They've never met. The way she was onboarded was straight through Confluence. And interestingly, the top 3 most used templates are blog posts, which I found just crazy because you could also write a blog in Confluence. So you're using a blog post template. But what the product team told me was that because so many people are being hired remotely across the world and are using Confluence, the only way that they could get their teammate members to know who they are is they start writing a blog. So they're using a blog post template. The 90-day plan makes sense. We're onboarding new people remotely, and meeting notes. And currently 127 templates with more to come that are available in Confluence. So if you're not on Confluence, I'm sorry, you're missing out and your life is unfulfilled. But if you're on Confluence, then you could skip and whistle down the street all day long. All right, breakout sessions. So there was a full menu of breakout sessions and demos at Team 22. I'll be honest, I attended the ones that I was interested in most. I didn't go to any saying I've got to report back on this. I went to mostly Confluence-based ones, a couple of other work-life balance ones. I was in a couple with Andrew, Dilip. Any review of all of the breakout sessions would not do any justice. However, because cloud migrations was a big focus during Team 22, I'll highlight some of them on the next slide before I show you how to access the rest. So these are some of the cloud migrations, and the QR code down here will take you to the cloud migrations tool on cloud migration site on Atlassian. You see a lot of customer use cases. Splunk was obviously, they won Team of the Year award, and they had done a massive migration of users, so they were highlighted multiple times throughout the conference. Technical deep dives and breakouts. So the common themes that I pulled out from migrations related content, and this thank you to Erica Larson actually here. I utilized her roadmap to guide me as to what I should watch. Assess and build your case for migration. Get in front of it while it's a luxury and not a necessity. So I don't know if anybody on this call is necessarily a server user. Server is going away. There is a definitive end of support date, right? You know that ahead of time. Start building your case now, because it takes a while to convince CTOs and CFOs to invest the money that's going to cost the migration. And it's not going to be cheap. Define what success looks like beforehand, so you know what you're aiming for. Engage a variety of users early and often. Don't work in a vacuum. And I'm someone that's often guilty of doing this myself with other projects. You have to understand how the users are utilizing it today to know how it's going to migrate and look later on. In the middle of a humongous CRM migration from a homegrown CRM that was proprietary to Salesforce, and it is an albatross. It is already months overrun in terms of time and cost, because we didn't involve all of the users early and often enough to know how they're using it to design it properly. I can only imagine what that will look like in the Jira software, Confluence, moving from on-prem to the cloud. Emphasize the value in cloud and business and cloud for business and end users. You have to educate. People need to know why you're going there. Know the differences, what they're going to be losing in cloud by going to cloud, and what they're going to be gaining by going to cloud. It's important to know both. Don't make assumptions. Assess your apps. I cannot stress this strongly enough. So many people look at a migration as, okay, we're migrating this service over here. Yeah, but how many things are tangential to that? How many things touch that? How do they interact with it, right? Assess the apps. You're not just migrating the core product, you're migrating everything. One of the themes that came out is hire a partner. If you value your data, the cost is justified, right? Don't try and do it on your own unless you have a small enough instance that, you know, if it crashes and burns, you could just start over in cloud from scratch. Test, and then test again. And realize that migration is not the end, it's a new beginning. And utilize the resources. Atlassian Cloud Migration Toolkits, that's the link in the QR code on this page. Atlassian University has content and has continued to add content. One of the focuses they're going to have is getting content in there to help people with migrations, and plenty of partner webinars that are out there. The Team 22 event site is live with on-demand content and recorded content that was presented live at Team 22 in Vegas. The content can be searched and consumed by track, product, area of interest. There's also YouTube playlists with the sessions as well. However, in true Atlassian fashion, I cannot tell you whether all of the content from one platform exists on the other or vice versa. You may find a nugget on the Team 22 event site that's never been uploaded to YouTube, and you might find things on YouTube that are not on the site. So I take no responsibility for where you go to look for the content and search for it, but there are I believe there are 101 of there. It says there 101 videos available already on the Team 22 playlist. So that's a lot. I think in previous years, Dilip or anybody else, you know, please correct me if I'm wrong. I don't believe that they did a good job of uploading everything to you, all the content to YouTube, and it just stayed on a locked site. Perhaps they've learned from their mistakes in that way, and it'll remain publicly accessible even after they spin down the specific event site. So we're a little bit over, but just for 2 minutes, talk about the incident. So what was the outage? Again, I will give Erica Larson complete credit for this. This is her content on my page. But you know, what it boiled down to was, interestingly for us, those of us who attended Team 22, so a lot of us were very disconnected from work and trying to focus on Team 22, but there was this underlying buzz of like, we started getting status page announcements. And if you have a Slack channel that pulls in all the status page alerts, or if you have some sort of RMS feed that comes in and gives you that information, you're starting to see, oh, there's this outage. What's the outage? Who is it? Nobody knew initially what it was. But what was amazing is the fact that it started as most attendees and Atlassian employees were traveling to Las Vegas, and in no way did it affect the conference live. Atlassian played a masterclass in keeping cool under fire when in front of the 33,000 or 2,500 people that were there. They didn't abandon any of the plans at all. They were present for every single event. Scott himself attended the community leaders dinner. I've never been to one before, so I don't know if that's a normal thing or not, but there were fires burning across the world, and they trusted the people that they assigned to deal with it and remain calm throughout. And then the CTO posted a blog post on the engineering blog for transparency about what happened, and that is what is linked to in the QR code. You could read it there. But basically, communication, as we know, the source of almost all ills is poor communication. A faulty script, which that'll do it. And the overall impact, though, was 400 clients out of 200,000. I haven't done the math, but that's less than half of 1 percentage point at all of all clients. However, there was enough noise, and everyone thought they were being affected. Nobody knew it was actually affected until the end, and then they released the data. So it happened. We were there. It wasn't ground zero per se, but it could have been. And I find it, I have to say kudos to the team at Atlassian for maintaining their cool under pressure. Finally, a couple of links to roadmaps borrowed from the Leap slides from last year. The cloud and data center remain the same. Those are active links that are being updated. Roadmaps for cloud and data center, what's going on there. There is no roadmap for servers, so don't ask me for it. And then what was interesting was, because there was such a focus on cloud at Team 22, there was this major backlash at the end of like, well, what's going on with data center? You didn't mention it enough. You didn't talk about it. So Gosha Kowalska, the head of product for data center, actually was compelled to write an article, which is the future of Atlassian data center, to clarify Atlassian's position and commitment to data center customers. It created a firestorm in the comment section. So as we know, the Atlassian community is passionate about the products. Brittany showed us how passionate she is about Trello. Hopefully you saw how passionate I am about Confluence. Each of us has our love within Atlassian, but it's a love, a little bit of hate relationship sometimes. I mean, the Jira guys, Rod Nelson's comment alone in that post could have been a post on its own. I mean, it was longer maybe than even Gosha's post. So it's really informative and helpful. Look at that post and at the comment sections and the responses there. Helpful when making investment decisions for future products, and highly recommended read. Excuse me. So scan that QR code and read that puppy. Finally, closing out our recap, we look forward to next year's Team 23. Hopefully more people, less illness around the world, less heartworm for dogs, less COVID for people. Returns to the Venetian Hotel once again in Las Vegas next year. The community leaders were treated to a nugget by Robert Schwani, the CMO at Atlassian, that there's a strong possibility that team event will be hosted in MSG Sphere in Las Vegas that is currently under construction, either in 24 or 25, which he said is going to be a completely new experience for team and the attendees. Open air sphere that will completely, skyrocket what they're looking at. With that, I thank you for listening to my gravelly voice for longer than anyone should be subjected to such torture, and I hand it back to Andrew.
Thank you so much, Andy, for that recap and some really good nuggets in there as well. Looking forward to seeing the Team 23. I was happy to see that date. So everyone mark calendars, and looking forward to seeing you there. So now what we'll be doing is open it up to general discussion. Everyone from the community is welcome to add their thoughts. For those that attended in person, what was your biggest takeaways there? If there's anything for talking about Trello, we do have Javier from the Trello team who's happy to field a few of those questions if you're interested in bringing Trello to your teams or anything regarding enterprise. Anything from the community, we can do a little bit of a circle the wagons, and just for those that attended or got to check out the sessions online, like what were your biggest takeaways? What was your biggest interests, and anything that we missed in the recap or anything like that? I know Andy went through so much content, but someone maybe picked up something else that they want to share.
Andy, I can't believe that was your very first one in person.
Yeah.
So myself, Madhu, Dilip, I think we've all been to many, and I can say this year it was a lot cozier. It reminded me of Barcelona 2017 when there weren't 20 people there. But it also gave, and Andy, how you got to sidle up and talk to product people. Enjoy that. As it gets bigger, the ability to sidle up to those people becomes less and less. So I had to say, although it was smaller, I super enjoyed being able to go up and talk directly to product people and vendors and really get a deep dive without having to wade through thousands of people.
Yeah, I'm also a Salesforce admin. So oddly enough, chief operating officer, Salesforce admin, and Atlassian admin in the company, but sometimes you have passion projects and you just don't want to give them up. And Salesforce, Dreamforce, New York City, which is normally about 25,000 people, was only maybe 2,500 people. And it was the same experience. It was so great. Like even those sessions that happened in the theaters on the floor, you could actually hear what they were saying. You could sit there and see what they're saying because you weren't behind 300 or 400 people that were crowding around, one screen. So I think that I will be a little bit disappointed next year. I'm hoping that the world should be a healthy place. That's what I'm hoping for. I'm also hoping that people say, hey, I stayed home last year, I don't have to go next year, and they could still be as cozy as it was this year, because that was amazing.
And just for everyone, I'll stop the recording here so we can just have a relaxed conversation and everything. So with that, we'll be stopping here.